Hey, it's Soul, and this is Warcraft Weekly, barely. But we're coming at you from over 250 different locations around Azeroth. You can help support the channel by liking this video, subscribing for more WoW coverage, and catching me where I'm live. It's the first weekly of the new year, and usually I'd be here talking up, the WoW team's first thing, or whatever, of 2026, but they've been suspiciously quiet, outside of small reminders as we approach the 12.0 Midnight pre-expansion patch, which is less than 2 weeks away. This is about the time where I look back and I think, damn, New Rubar Palace, it feels like a pretty long time ago. But think of it this way too. The Warlords of Draenor lull, from the launch of the Hellfire Citadel raid all the way to the Legion expansion, it's almost as long as the war within itself. I get we're all uniquely wired. We feel the passage of time differently for all sorts of reasons, but I want to say that this era of World of Warcraft, the Dragonflight and the World Soul Saga kind of era, it has this kind of unique quirk to it, because we have tons of things happening, but very little of it being the sorts of substance that you absolutely have to be there for when it's present. We had to be there for the borrowed power era because, now it's gone. We can't do those sorts of things anymore or get a lot of those things. With some notable exceptions, you can still get things you want from the Dragon Isles and Khazalgar years down the road. That's kind of what we get with this so-called evergreen content. By its nature, there's no consequential rush to complete these things, and that sense of reward, it varies from person to person. Because ask someone how they feel about mounts, or transmogs, or pets, or housing. We get lots of different answers. The natives are getting pretty restless, though, these days. I'm starting to see the rhetoric of Blizzard being radio silent, which, yeah, I understand. I was hoping for a new build this week, or a roadmap, or a tease on a housing feature, something. It's kind of funny when in the before times during an expansion lull, we wouldn't hear a damn thing from them for like half a year. So these days, I feel like an addict who hasn't gotten their fix after only a few days. I can safely predict though that the tone, it's going to shift pretty quick, because before you know it, we'll be in the pre-patch, and folks will wonder why the really big event, which is scheduled for the week after the pre-patch, by the way, why it hasn't started yet. We're very predictable like that. To those of you who commented on, hey, what gives, why am I doing nothing but housing content lately? It's because, well, that's what we've been left with over this patch cycle. There's only so many times when we can remind folks of the vendors behind that tent over in the Legion remix, or what you should be doing before the patch drops for the umpteenth time. Meanwhile, as a new feature introduced during a mid-patch towards the end of an expansion, housing easily has this longer tail than like the Brawlers Guild or Horrific Visions. It's got the potential, in fact, to have near infinite staying power as players build and then rebuild and get new stuff and then experiment and so much more. Now, not to say it's perfect either, right? Housing's still in early access until the actual launch of Midnight, and it's fair to say that after initial interest, we've seen a good drop-off of participation for pretty much any reason you can think of. But 1 month later, we gotta ask ourselves, how is housing doing? Answering that question as a whole, it might seem relevant as, a fan cheering on their favorite game, but it's most important on the individual level. Like, how have your feelings changed, if at all? Your answers probably make for a better snapshot than mine, because I'm in a really weird and unique position to be endlessly entertained by housing stuff, even if I've barely touched my cafe in the past couple of weeks. So I want to hear from you folks. Like, how does housing feel personally? Do you happen to be in a guild or a public neighborhood? And how's that looking? Because, that changes the framing of the feedback. And how active are you in the community? Whether it's reading the discussions, participating in Discord channels, maybe you're sharing tips or watching featured builds or making your own. It's a super different vibe from the bread and butter of World of Warcraft gameplay, where it was more like, you're trying to get into groups and how's your class feeling, your performance, that sort of thing. And that is very important too. I know you've heard more than enough from me about housing, and you'll have to bear with it for just a little bit longer. The pre-patch is just around the corner, and there's a lot to be excited about as we get the guides up and running before launch. I want to prepare myself for a successful start, of course, and I want to share my tips with you. But I've also made it a big point to give lots of communication on my housing plans after this whole whirlwind month of nonstop coverage. Folks on streams have listened to me prattle on back and forth about all sorts of things, but now I want to talk with you here about the immediate plans and changes and how it's going to affect the channel. And spoiler alert, it's not going to be much. And it will too. Just as I predicted, a new generation of creators is rising up and making themselves known. No one person truly owns housing. The space, it's big enough for everyone to show off their creations or to find a place or someone like me who will gush and react to their amazing builds to, highlight and uplift the community. Our new feature, Around Azeroth, it's had a crazy successful launch with visits to over 250 player homes and another 50 or so lined up for just next week. So recording-wise, that's going to be around 80 straight hours of checking out builds and laughing at toilets and being blown away by your creations, from like houses and fighting arenas to mazes and purely abstract things. That's a lot of coverage, starring you as designers and me as just a commentator. I underestimated your interest in having me visit, and I also overestimated my ability to handle this sudden incoming workload, from managing the data to turning it into digestible content for people to enjoy. Like, for example, it turns out that, for the most part, folks would rather enjoy shorter videos with highlights, but those who do enjoy the longer, complete visits, they really enjoy them. It's been a long process of experimenting with video formats and watching how viewers react to it. So I think I'm ready to switch things up a bit in a way that everyone can enjoy. So here's the updated plan of what's going to happen. Roughly once a week or so, I'm going to throw together what I'm going to call Around Azeroth highlights. It's going to be the same routine how it was through December, but instead I'm going to release shorter, digestible content, stuff that's no more than 20 or 30 minutes long, highlighting stuff like outstanding builds or features based on some sort of theme, like, hey, here's some class celebrations or awesome bathrooms or something like that. These are going to appear on this channel as part of everything else I do, with the weekly updates, the guides now and then, and the commentary, of course. Because throwing in a 2-hour-long video, unfortunately, it hasn't quite worked out. It's not very clickable on a Sunday morning. Featuring a visit every day, it'd be overwhelming to your feed, and even then, a daily dose of housing, it won't even keep up with me doing dozens of visits each week, which is what I still plan on doing. Meanwhile, I've had this other channel on YouTube, the Coffee with Soul Clips channel that I haven't touched in years. It's going to be rebuilt into the Around Azeroth archive. Each and every tour is going to get its own video with minimal edits, and the plan so far is to release these like every other day or so once it officially opens. That's still going to be a few weeks from now. With that kind of pace, I'm already going to have almost a year's worth of content, and I can prep these well ahead of time. The intent is to work my way towards having a day of release and even more throughout each day. Which brings me to what lots of folks have been asking: how am I going to handle these visits in the future? Because doing 50 or 60 a week, it's fun, but it's just not viable in the long run. While streaming, I want to play the game too, and I want to prop up my cafe and collect cool stuff with you. The current plan, which will start next week, is to open signups just like I did over the past month, but with some very strict limits. The form itself will have all the details, but basically I'm going to do around 30 visits at most a week, and maybe a little bit more if I manage to get another stream day up and running. I've been struggling with that because of health stuff. Every Tuesday around 10 a.m. Pacific, meaning I'll happen to be live at the time, I'm going to update the sheet and basically let in 30 or so people who can sign up, with the expectation I'll visit their places the following week. Now, I know that limiting the signups, it sounds sort of pretentious, and I'm not counting on folks like rushing and piling in like these are concert tickets, right? But this is a way to manage my workload and, more importantly, your expectations, because I know it sucked having to wait like almost 3 weeks for me to come by. It's just not fair to you. This period in time has been unique. It's the combination of the end of the expansion plus housing as a brand spanking new feature. Folks have had lots of free time to build, and I had lots of free time to cover all of it. But what's going to happen at midnight with the general release? There are lots of factors that could increase or decrease that activity, so I'll be monitoring the situation and oversharing what I find with you. While I'm working out the process, you might also start seeing bits of short-form content on social media, like highlights of cool housing things to direct folks to the live stream or to the Around Azeroth archive channel. Folks who've been watching me on this channel or on Twitch for even only a short time should have seen something like this coming. I made it super clear that I've been seeking out something like player housing to be a new way of enjoying what the World of Warcraft is, from the game side of things to this new revealing side of players' creativity and expression. Housing content has let me experience and spread joy about this game in ways that I couldn't before. Like, it's cool figuring out cool transmog builds and showing it off, or doing the random thing to sit at chaos, but this is different. I know it's also kind of scary for people to give strangers a glimpse of their creativity, right? It's easy to compare and then be inspired and then maybe even feel discouraged seeing all these cool creations and looking at your own thing and being like, bleh. But for those who've seen my visits, I hope you can see the grin from ear to ear that's going on like pretty much the whole day. This happiness that's oozing from me, whether it's this super original idea or something emulated from someone's guide but with a different take, or something that looks, kind of normal, because we all got to start somewhere. So I hope you've been enjoying the content, and I also can't wait to dive into Midnight once we get into it. That's the show, and I wanted to talk up gathering professions this week, but the beta, it's been busted, and I can't level up, so that's kind of my excuse. I hope to get to that, and then some more over the next week. But for now, let's give a thanks to everyone who's been joining me over the past few weeks. We've got lots of new regulars showing up for the visits and participating in their own way, so it's been fantastic seeing folks coming back for more. Also, thanks to our loyal patrons, including some newcomers, Mad Cow and Casey. Thanks a ton for the support. And we can't forget about you, viewer. You made it to the end. You fed the algorithm. I want to wish you all a happy weekend. Please like this video, subscribe for more coverage, catch me live, and I'll catch you later. Now, my usual exit line, it's just a platitude, right? And for some of us, the world outside there, the reality of things, it can be really scary and frustrating and irritating at the very least. I just want to reaffirm my pledge to all of you to be a brief escape from all of that, to be a space where we can take comfort in some simple joys and experiences, a bit of a recharge. I hope you come back for more of that fix. And until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.